One of the biggest reasons that people move to Denver, Colorado is to have access to the mountains. But what a lot of people don't realize is you don't have to live in the mountains to have that type of environment and feel. So in this video today, I'm actually going to be sharing with you guys 3 neighborhoods that, as a Colorado and Denver native, I think are some of the best for that outdoor experience and still feeling like you're living in the mountains without having to spend an hour driving all the way up into the mountains to enjoy it. So excited to share this one with you guys. Stay tuned for a brand new episode of Living in Denver. Let's go. All right, guys, so as I said, today's going to be all about 3 neighborhoods that make you feel like you're still living in the mountains while being within 30 minutes of downtown Denver and all the urban amenities that the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado has to offer. Before we go through this, I'll let info this pop it up on the screen. If you have any questions when you go through the video today, feel free to reach out. I'm an open book, and as I said, I'm a Colorado and Denver native, and I just love connecting with people like yourself. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. And in this video, I'm actually going to be going through on a consistent basis through 4 aspects of life in these 3 neighborhoods. So the 4 things that I'm going to be talking with on each of these 3 neighborhoods is going to be, number 1, what the setting feels like. Number 2, what daily living is like in that area. Number 3, how convenient it is, if there's any walkability or at least what is near the area. And then last but not least, number 4, the type of homes that buyers are typically finding in that area. So all 4 of these I'm going to talk to you about with each of the 3 neighborhoods. And let's just jump right into the first one, which is going to be the North Ranch at Caryl. So North Ranch at Caryl is one of my all-time favorite areas in all of Denver. In fact, I've done several other videos on this exact area. So if this is really interesting to you, make sure you guys check out one of those after you finish watching this video. In fact, I'll put a little link up above just so you have easy access to find it. But why I love the North Ranch at Caryl is actually because I have some family that lived there my entire childhood. So I spent pretty much every Thanksgiving and Christmas driving out to the North Ranch and enjoying spending time with my family that lived there. And they lived there that entire time because why leave when you live in such a special place? Now, when it comes to the first of these 4 categories, which is the setting and environment, what I love about North Ranch is it really is in its own little tucked away area within Denver. Right now, I actually live in Littleton, which is close to North Ranch at Caryl, and it's very unique. There's different areas within Caryl, but why I love the setting and the environment so much is because there's a ton of red rock formations, lots of open space, and it is very unique when you look at it in comparison to other areas that I'm going to be sharing with you guys after this one. Now, when it comes to the environment in North Ranch at Caryl, man, there isn't anywhere else like it in Denver, in my opinion. So definitely high on my list today, guys. And I love it because there's so much open space. There's tons of trails and very private walking areas throughout the entire North Ranch where you're really not even supposed to utilize any of this unless you're a homeowner in that area. So you get to experience and enjoy all these areas that are very quiet, private, pristine. And with that, oftentimes comes a lot of wildlife and just this different level of peace that you can't really find in some of the other areas that are a little bit more trafficked and busier. Now, when it comes to daily living, there are some trade-offs. So one big pro to living in North Ranch at Caryl is that outdoor experience. Lots of open space, wildlife, all that stuff I just said. But daily living, one challenge for some is that it does take a little bit longer of a drive time really to get anything that you might need. So for example, the grocery store. If you need to go to the grocery store and you live at North Ranch, it might be a 10 to maybe even up to 15-minute drive depending on what time of year just to get out of the North Ranch and then back close to C470 where there's a lot of, typical shopping centers, all that good stuff. So you have plenty of access to that stuff, but it might take you a little bit longer than it would living in some of the other areas that we're going to talk about. Now, I will say there's a pro and a con to that. The pro is also the fact that because it's a little bit further on the outskirts, you have less traffic, you have less people driving through the area, a lot more wildlife, and at nighttime especially, incredible. It has some of the best night sky of anywhere in all of Denver. In fact, they've even gone to the point of restricting certain types of lighting in that neighborhood at night just to really preserve and make it feel like you are living in the mountains. So very unique, very cool in my opinion. And then number 3, talking a little bit more about that convenience, kind of ties into the daily living. It is a little bit less convenient when it comes to going out and getting shopping and all that good stuff. But Ken Caryl has several very nice recreational options for people. What I mean by this is there's a great clubhouse. There's also some really cool stables for horseback riding, a whole separate little thing that you can enjoy when you live in the North Ranch at Ken Caryl. So definitely check that out if you guys are equestrian type people. And there's also the Manor House. So the Manor House is a really fun, just beautiful building that sits on the top of this hill and is really kind of the iconic centerpiece of Ken Caryl. And just another example though of how, yes, you might have to drive a little bit further to get to some of these amenities, but man, I think it's well worth the trade-off. A little bit less convenient at times, but man, the payoff again is a much more private, just a much more established, just special place. Especially the whole reason this video is made today is talking about being in the mountains and really having more of that type of environment and that type of experience. And you get that when it is a little bit further removed from the rest of the city and the urban type areas. Now, last but not least, I want to finish Ken Caryl out with talking a little bit more about the type of homes that you're going to find in this area. So within North Ranch at Ken Caryl, you're typically going to find homes that are a bit higher on the price point, $1.5 million all the way up to $2 to $3 million, maybe even a little bit more at this point. And that's because they're on larger lots. A lot of them are backing up to open space and very, very high-end finishes. Lots of very nice homes in the North Ranch at Ken Caryl. Now, I will also, though, just share with you guys, there's other areas within Ken Caryl outside of North Ranch. In fact, there's several. So if that price point is a little bit more than what you're willing to spend, the good news is you still have other areas within Ken Caryl that don't have quite as much of a removed feel where you really do feel like you're in the mountains, but very, very close in some areas. So just making a point that if you still are really interested in Ken Caryl, but that $1.5 million plus price point is maybe a little bit above what you want to spend, don't worry, you can still find some other spots in this area that might still fit what you're looking for. So if you have questions on that, feel free to reach out. Again, I'll put my info down below. I have really, really good just understanding of this area, and I'd love to share more about it with you guys too. So reach out. All right, so now let's just jump right into the second neighborhood, and this one is going to be Golden. And Golden is actually one of my favorite places. I share Golden with pretty much everybody that's willing to listen because I think it has so much to offer. So this video today is talking about just how you can live in certain areas around Denver. Like first we talked about North Ranch at Ken Caryl. Now we're talking about Golden. These are areas that are really giving you that extra level of feel like you are in the mountains while, again, not having to drive an hour all the way up in the mountains to get this. So with Golden, what I love most about it is the views as well as the immediate, and I mean immediate access to even larger mountains right out your back door. Lots of very experienced athletes, very outdoorsy type people. You really do have a lot of higher level of just people that are really valuing this and making it such a priority in their lives that they're choosing to live in the area just because of that. So we're gonna talk again about the same four things. So the first one being the setting and the environment. So if you look at Golden on a map, you can see that it really is tucked up right up against the mountains. Lookout Mountain is a really fun drive to take. You actually will see a lot of people road biking, cycling up this crazy windy road. Talk about a serious workout. You'll also see a lot of people actually paragliding off of there as well. Because of the thermals and the updrafts, they're able to basically jump off Lookout Mountain and look out at all of downtown Golden and just be basically floating right above Golden. So really, really convenient location and setting if you want to be tucked up right against the mountains, as well as having easy access to I-70 to get further up in the mountains to start enjoying ski areas, mountain biking, all the stuff that can be easily done in the mountain towns of Colorado that are, in a lot of times, within a 30 to 45-minute drive when you live on that western side of town in Golden. Now next, I want to talk a little bit about daily living. So daily living in Golden, I think, is probably going to be the top of all three neighborhoods that I'm sharing with you guys today. And that's because of the walkability being so great. Now, when you look at Golden, there's obviously a lot to look at. There's areas that are much more dense. So downtown Golden, for example, incredible walkability, lots of local restaurants, bars, shops, anything you can think of, as well as Coors Brewery being the main staple of that entire area. But there's also areas within Golden that are a bit further from downtown that won't have that same level of walkability, but still a great level of just convenience with so many shops and restaurants, grocery stores, everything you can think of. And to maybe even take that a step further, since I-70 just basically runs right through the Golden area, as well as another road called Highway 58, you have such easy access to the highways to just take a quick trip into downtown Denver, or maybe other areas that are a little bit to the east of Golden, such as, for example, Wheat Ridge, or even a little bit further into areas like Sloan Lake, and then again, downtown Denver. If you're commuting, for example, to downtown Denver from Golden, depending on where you're at in Golden, but it can easily, be a pretty quick direct shot if you take some of those highways I'm mentioning, and it won't be more than about 25, maybe 30 minutes depending on where you're living, but there's still areas within Golden that have pretty easy convenience and access, even if you are still trying to get around town on a frequent basis. So I kind of went through number 2 and number 3 at the same time. Number 2 being daily living, and then now number 3, convenience, but really just to hit that home one last time. Golden is so convenient, not just for everything that you can access in Denver, again, super close to shopping, Applewood, Wheat Ridge, Sloan Lake, all those areas that are a little bit to the east of Golden, but I want to talk also about convenience, again, with the mountains. And I've done other videos about this too, where, for people that move out to Colorado, they want to be here because of the outdoors and really want to live this healthy, active lifestyle. When you live in areas that are maybe further away, maybe areas like Thornton or Northglenn that are north of Denver, or maybe places to the south and southeast like Aurora, when you live in those areas, there's a ton of great things to do, but when it comes to the mountains, it's going to require you to drive 20, 30, maybe even 45 minutes just to get out to the places like where Golden is located to enjoy an afternoon hike after work, or maybe a mountain bike ride at sunset. You can still do this no matter where you live in Denver, but it's just the convenience factor. And when you live in Golden, since it is so much more convenient, what ends up happening is you actually end up doing it on a more regular basis and enjoying it more. So again, if you really, really want to do this kind of stuff, the outdoor, healthy, active lifestyle activities that have to do more with being in the mountains, being in a location like Golden really will, I think, serve you where you will actually do this on a more regular basis, and it won't become something that you thought you would do a lot of, but then you end up only doing it maybe once or twice a year. And then last but not least, before we move on from Golden, the fourth thing I want to talk about is just the type of homes you're going to find in the Golden area. So similar to the first location, North Ranch at Caryl that I shared with you, with Golden, you're going to find a little bit of the same thing going on, where there's going to be quite a premium and going to see quite a few homes with pretty steep price points just because of the location. And with Golden, you're very limited in growth. And what I mean by that is it's already been developed all the way out west to where the foothills are in the mountains. So Golden can't expand any more to the west, and really it can't expand any more either to the east because it's already at that point. There's still some stuff going on right now in Applewood, some really cool improvements being made all around the new Lutheran Hospital location. Just got finished last year, actually. So there is some new development going on, but typically it's going to be more mixed use or also a lot of multifamily. There are still some single family homes being developed, but for the most part, Golden's kind of maxed out. So when it comes to the type of homes, you might see a little bit higher price point because the supply and demand. There's just not that many homes available for buyers, and because of that, the prices go up. Still options out there, just wanted to throw that in there, that it is a little bit more challenging at times to find homes for some of my clients when I'm showing them this area. Sometimes it's a bit harder to really identify good options for them just because of the lack of inventory. All right, and then last but not least, I'm gonna share with you guys now the third neighborhood that is also awesome if you want to have that kind of that mountain living feel, but still be within Denver. And this is gonna be Morrison. So Morrison is a pretty kind of a quiet, a little bit maybe lesser known area in Denver, especially for people that aren't from here. But maybe you do know about Morrison, and if you do, I'm wondering if it might be because of what's located in Morrison, which happens to be one of my favorite places in all of Denver, all the world for that matter, and that's Red Rocks Amphitheater. If you guys like live music and you haven't been to Red Rocks, you're missing out. You need to crawl out from under that rock you've been under and definitely check out a concert at Red Rocks because it is the best venue in the country. I think it's the best venue in the entire world. I actually used to work there in high school and college selling lemonades, and then once I hit 21, I sold vodka lemonades with a couple other friends there and saw so many shows there as a child and growing up and getting into my adulthood, and I still try and at least go to 1 or 2 a year today. So definitely cool to have that right next to you when you live in Morrison. So talking though a little bit more about the 4 aspects with Morrison, the first one being the setting and environment. So when it comes to the setting of Morrison, it is really tucked up right up against the foothills. Morrison is, an area that's small in size, but definitely has some really cool areas once you start diving into it a little bit more and exploring. So when it comes to the setting and the environment, definitely very good when it comes to easy access to the mountains. When you look at the area, for example, where Red Rocks Amphitheater is located, there's a ton of great hiking, really good mountain biking as well. So when you live in Morrison, you have those types of activities to enjoy that sometimes could just be accessed by leaving your front door, hopping on your mountain bike, and you're in these areas from your front door. So talk about just easy accessibility and being able to actually follow through and do these things, because it is really, there's no excuse. Since it is so close and so easy to achieve, just you make it happen. So really good when it comes to that aspect of Morrison. But now I want to talk a little bit more about daily living. And with daily living, what I love is you have actually areas in Morrison that are very close to the downtown Morrison area. There's a few different restaurants, some bars, a few really cool kind of local restaurants. There's a really good one that has Eastern European food that we've gone to over the years with my family. Really good pizza places, just some very well-known, very highly rated places, restaurants. But since it is a little farther removed from most of Denver, you just don't have nearly the amount of people traveling to Morrison like you would places like Golden. So definitely a much more smaller feel when comparing it to Golden, but some people really like that. You really do feel a little bit more in the mountains when you live in Morrison in comparison, again, to places like maybe even Golden. One other thing I'd like to share before moving on, if you look at it on a map, Morrison is actually kind of in the middle, right between the North Ranch at Caryl, which is a little bit further south of Morrison, and then if you go north of Morrison, you hit Golden. So, as you can notice, obviously all three of these are on the western side of town, since the whole video is about being close to the mountains and enjoying that active mountain lifestyle. But just to kind of put things in perspective, Morrison is smack dab in the middle between the other two. So when it comes to convenience of accessibility to parts of Denver, Morrison probably will be the best bet. It'll be very similar to North Ranch when it comes to accessing C470, and then from there accessing all of the western and southern side of Denver. But overall, guys, just want to make the point that when it comes to the daily living with Morrison, you do have a lot right at your fingertips, and it's not nearly as maybe far removed as some people might think. And then to take that just a step further, talking now again a little bit more about convenience. When it comes to the airport, you're looking at, nothing crazy, maybe about 45 minutes. But when you're looking at downtown Denver, you're also a little bit closer and easier, assuming the weather's good and the roads aren't bad, where it's going to be about 25 to 30 minutes to downtown Denver. So a lot of people that reach out to me and talk to me about location and proximity to things, 30 minutes tends to be kind of the window for a lot of us. If it's under 30 minutes, that's acceptable. So with Morrison, the fact that this is within 30 minutes, that might, be enough to change somebody's opinion on if this really, maybe at first they thought it was too far removed from town, where at second glance, maybe it's actually something worth looking into. So definitely really cool area when you look at Morrison. And when it comes to the last thing I want to share, which is just number 4, the home styles and what buyers can expect in Morrison, you might be kind of getting a theme here that I shared with you about Golden. Inventory is also fairly limited, and that's not just because of it being in an area that few people kind of want to leave, because once they get there they want to stay in Morrison. But again, it's such a small area. When looking at it on a map, there aren't a ton of options. Now Morrison does have some areas that are starting to get a little bit more developed. There's some new construction communities going up. There's also actually a new redevelopment of the area that was formerly Bandimere Speedway. Bandimere Speedway was this awesome racetrack for drag racing and top fuel type vehicles, where very fast, very loud. It was really fun to visit and go to a few of these competitions or shows over the years, but now is being relocated to a different part of the state. So that's going to all now be redeveloped as well. So there are going to be some new options coming available in the next, few years in the Morrison area. So worth, thinking about that and having at least that maybe on your radar if you're not looking right now. So Morrison's definitely, though, a great area to consider. If you guys are golfers, there's also some really good golf courses in the Morrison area. So definitely, worth looking into that a little bit too. Red Rocks Country Club is one that I personally really like, and it's maybe one you might want to look at yourselves. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, I hope you got some value out of this one. A little bit different from what I typically do, but I just know that so many viewers out there that are considering moving to Colorado and considering Denver, one of the things that so many people always reach out to me about is, I want to be close to mountain biking and skiing and just enjoying the outdoor, active, healthy lifestyle that Colorado is so famous for having. Well, you can do that no matter where you live in Denver. But speaking personally here, I always find it that when you live in areas where it's much easier to do these activities, the more likely you are to do them, and the more likely you're going to actually be able to enjoy and have this be a main reason for why you enjoy living in Denver. So if that's really important to you, I do recommend that you consider heavily the western side of town in places like Golden, maybe even Morrison, or maybe in places like the North Ranch at Caryl. So all three of these are some of my favorites, and I hope after watching this video today, they might be some of yours as well. Before we close this one out, you guys, one last thing I want to share. Every month, I do live, free, they're home buyer webinars, and basically it's just a way for people that are considering Denver to learn a little bit more about what it takes to succeed with buying a home in 2026 here in Denver. And we just talk through strategies, what it takes, what the process is. I'm not selling anything. This is just a value add, just something that we do on a monthly basis to help people that still need that extra bit of information, guidance, knowledge, and maybe some motivation to realize that this dream can be achieved and become a reality. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Can't wait to share a brand new episode with you guys next time on Living in Denver. I'll see you then.